Well, folks, another day and another psychologist warning us that Donald Trump is suffering from some form of mental degeneration. We have psychologist John Gartner, who is a former assistant professor at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. He's now just a psychologist. But Dr. Gartner tells us in a new op-ed from USA Today, and I encourage everybody to read it, follow the link in the description of the video here. But nonetheless, he tells us that the red flags for Donald Trump's mental stability are waving wildly, is what he says. You don't even have to be a doctor to recognize what's happening with the president. Now, this op-ed is not just an attack saying, oh, Donald Trump's nuts, he's crazy. No, this is actually a more nuanced look into what's happening with the president using his own behavior as examples. Here's one thing. He points out that, recently when he said Tim Apple instead of Tim Cook, when he confused Paradise, California and called it Pleasure, California, things like that, those are gaffes for the most part. But there's other gaffes that the president commits that are actually symptoms. Case in point, recently, when he said that his father was from Germany. He said it multiple times in that single interview. That's not a gaffe. That is a symptom. When he kept trying to say the word origins and said oranges, and he kind of stopped himself and he said, the oranges, the oranges of it. That was one of the biggest indicators. Because you could tell when you watch that clip, and this is what Gartner talks about here, you could tell he knew it was wrong. But for the life of him, his brain couldn't get that correct word. That's why he kind of paused and then tried to say it again, but failed to do so. And that's not an attack on the president. That is what happened there. And that's what's so different about this piece by Gartner, is that it's not looking to make fun of him or insult him or tell us he's an idiot. It's looking at it from a purely diagnostic point of view. Those are symptoms. Symptoms of dementia, symptoms of Alzheimer's, but they are symptoms. And that is actually what psychologists use to determine how far along someone is. Now, we do know when Donald Trump underwent his health assessment from Dr. Ronnie Jackson, according to Gartner here, they gave him the Montreal Cognitive Assessment and Donald Trump passed. Do you know what that test involves? He has to identify a camel, draw a clock, and recite 3 numbers backwards. That's it. If you pass that, you do not have full-blown dementia. So Trump, at the time, this was 2008, did not have full-blown dementia because he knew what a camel was, and he knew what a clock looked like. Well, it's been over a year. And that's exactly what Gartner tells us. Let me read some of this here. Dementia Care International says a person may start to mix up relationships and generations in the second stage of dementia. That is specifically talking about Trump repeatedly claiming that his father came from Germany. In Alzheimer's, as language skills deteriorate, we see 2 types of telltale speech disorders or paraphasias. The first one is phonemic paraphasia. And that's where words like big league become bigly. They run together. And he also points out Donald Trump's recent CPAC speech, where the president kept doing that with words, just running them together and making a single new word. Those aren't gaffes. They're symptoms. But the oranges thing, oranges versus origins, that was kind of the limit, right? At that point, they could tell something was wrong. But more importantly, at that point, and go back and watch the video and you'll see, Trump could tell something was wrong. He didn't know the word, but he knew that he didn't say the correct one. That is a sign that, yeah, he still has enough brain to understand that his brain's not working properly. The question is, does the rest of the American public still have enough brain to understand that his isn't working properly. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget, if you like what you see here, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And now you can also become a member of Ring of Fire and get exclusive early access to certain Ring of Fire videos all throughout the week. Just click on the little join button right below the video.